So we had a key AFC Week 3 matchup, some calling it a preview of a playoff game down the line. Who is going to win? Kansas City versus Baltimore, and who would be the one to mess up? We also had a number 1 pick who slipped up yet again. So I'd like to combine these games, even though they have nothing plausibly in common. But for the purposes of our monologue, we will combine Lamar Jackson and the Ravens visiting Arrowhead and the Big Bad Chiefs, and Kyler Alligator Arms Murray favored at home against an undrafted quarterback who was playing at the last minute for an 0-2 Carolina Panther team. And we'll break both these games down, and we'll combine them together, and we'll ask the question, as we discuss this, which quarterback was a more depressing quarterback, Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray? Which one was more troubling, their performance on this particular day? Now, you might say I want to go with Kyler Murray, but I'm not. I'm actually going to go with Lamar Jackson. I believe what Lamar Jackson did was worse. Now, Kyler Murray was bad, but Lamar Jackson he should get more of the abuse. He should be lampooned more. So the answer is Lamar. You've got wobbly, emasculating, and mirage. And we will combine all of these things. Now, number 1, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, reading some of the things that have been written about him on the internet, the most amazing things, the kind of things you want someone to write about you. Lamar Jackson has been the breakout star the first couple weeks, taking advantage of the doormats of the NFL, and as you should, beat up the Dolphins, who are like a minor league team. The Cardinals are a joke of a team with a sideshow quarterback. And so it's kind of like kindergarten art. When you play against the Dolphins and the Cardinals, you don't have to color between the lines to have success. When you, in kindergarten, just put anything on the paper, it's like, hey, that's an A+. It's a good job by you, right? And so you don't get all excited about that. And Jackson, listen, I admit, his numbers were great. The precision passing for Lamar Jackson was eye-opening. But time to put a break on the Marching and Chowder Society, the bandwagon of Lamar Jackson. Some of the hyperbole in the lead-up to this game at Arrowhead, they were comparing the rivalry between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes to Bird Magic, Ali, Frazier, some of the most ridiculous. You're talking about, like, over the top. And I know I'm in the hype business, but come on. I mean, even that is ridiculous. And so here was Lamar, who played football like he was wobbly at times in this game against a substandard Chiefs defense. And I recall having a conversation with my friend Sports with Coleman, Baltimore radio guy, friend of the show, Sports with Coleman. And we both agreed that this was going to be the first real test for Lamar Jackson, although the Chiefs defense, not very good. That's a substandard Kansas City defense. And yet Lamar Jackson at times in this game was, the word is, befuddled by Kansas City. And you're like, well, how could that possibly be? This doesn't make any sense here. But certainly he was, in the first half of this game, stupefied by Kansas City's defensive effort. Lamar, in the first half, was 8 of 19 for 75 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, had a quarterback rating of 53. And for the first 30 minutes of the game, he averaged 3.9 yards per attempt. And Baltimore dug themselves a gigantic hole. They were down 23-6 at Arrowhead at halftime because of the offensive shortcomings of Lamar Jackson mainly, and also down by 17 points entering the fourth quarter. So they often tell you that you would like to play from behind. That's typically a good formula to win on the road, unless it's not. So this game was mostly a debacle. The final score, and in Baltimore, this is one of the games I got wrong. Baltimore did cover the spread with a touchdown with a little over 2 minutes to go in the game. So Kansas City had been covering the whole game, and then Baltimore get that late touchdown for that trash cover, and then the Chiefs were able to run out the clock after that, and they win the game. But Lamar Jackson finished completing barely 50% of his passes. He averaged 6.2 yards per attempt for the game. Now, he didn't throw any interceptions, but those are the kind of numbers that Lamar Jackson had last year when we just killed him. Those are the kind of numbers Lamar had. He completes 50% of his passes for less than 7 yards per attempt, and it's not a way to win against the better teams. You can certainly have success against the Dolphins and Cardinals, and hopefully Harbaugh, I bet he wishes they were like college John Harbaugh, or Jim Harbaugh rather, or John Harbaugh. I got my Harbaughs mixed up. It was a big Harbaugh weekend. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan not even showing up. Anyway, all right, so in this one, John Harbaugh, all right, if it was like college football, you could just schedule more games against the Dolphins and the Cardinals like next year, but you can't really do that here. You're screwed. In the pros, you can't, it doesn't work that way. But for Kansas City, they get a confidence-boosting performance. Not that they really needed that. They're a very confident football team, but they were able to nullify and neutralize Lamar Jackson. But that is a big deal for the Chiefs' defense, which I still think is rat poison. But the Dolphins, and Kansas City and these other teams the Ravens have played, certainly the Ravens' offense looked like the real deal, as we said. Obviously not the real deal. Here's Lamar Jackson pointing out that there was a job to be done here, and the job was not done.
It's our job to execute. Fourth and short, third and short, we get it. We trying to score points. Chiefs has a great offense, explosive offense. Our job is to finish. Keep our defense on the sideline as much as we can. And we didn't do that today. We started doing it towards the end, but it was too late.
Yes. Well, it was not too late to cover the spread, though, so you screwed me over, but you did not actually win the game. The object is to win. You play to win the game. The Ravens went for it on fourth down 3 times. Actually, 4 times. They converted 3 of them in this game, and some of the analytical nerds on the websites are all excited now that the Ravens are an analytical dream because they're going for it on fourth down. The first one, well, I believe, was because of a penalty. If you saw the beginning part of that game, I'm skeptical whether this is now going to be the new normal for the Ravens. Someone eventually will copy. There's a high school coach, I think he still does this, that never punts and just goes for it on fourth down every time, no matter where the ball is. Because
who?
I don't remember the guy's name. I read a story about him a couple years ago, a high school football coach that just decided he didn't want to punt, didn't want to kick field goals, just wanted to go for it every single time, try to get a touchdown. Now, the second thing, we will give the Ravens Lamar Jackson the edge over Kyler Murray, but that does not mean that Kyler Murray does not get to also wear a dunce cap for his performance. That was an alarming effort against a team in Carolina that had been hideous their first couple games of the year. This guy was the number 1 pick, Kyler Murray, in the entire draft. We knew he was a mistake. He has lived up to those expectations that we've had for him. He's been overmatched 3 games, and he has been outplayed every week by the opposing quarterback. This time, it was an undrafted backup named Kyle Allen who put together a masterpiece, sliding in for Cam Newton. Just like Chris Collinsworth slides in on Al Michaels there at the beginning in the monologue there on NBC, The Open. But Kyle Allen was really good. I mean, Kyle Allen, he completed over 70% of his passes, averaged over 10 yards per attempt, had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I expected him to hold his own. I did pick Carolina in the game, but that was a Peyton Manning-like performance by Kyle Allen. And then on the other hand, you got Kyler Murray, who was, again, Charlie Checkdown. I guess you should expect short passes from Kyler Murray because he's a short guy, and that's what you got. 30 of 43 passing for 173 yards. That works out to 4 yards per attempt. Remember, football people will tell you the minimum acceptable yards per pass attempt in the NFL for a quarterback is 7. 7 yards per attempt. Kyler Murray was at 4 yards in a cloud of dust per pass attempt for the number 1 overall pick. What an embarrassment for the Cardinal franchise, who are a joke anyway. That's 3 yards below. That's an emasculating statistic. 4 yards per pass attempt. He also struggled to get rid of the ball. He was sacked 8 times. There's a bad internal clock. Similar to Baker Mayfield. Now, Mayfield wasn't even pressured all that much, but the same concept applies here in that Kyler Murray was feeling pressure even when there was no pressure. He also threw a couple of interceptions in the game. And he got worse as the game progressed. He completed a lot of short passes early on in the game. And the low IQ football fan gets excited about that. But remember, Sam Bradford, I believe it was, with the Vikings a couple years ago, set a record for completion percentage and accuracy, because if you're Charlie check down, you're going to complete a ton of passes. But it's not going to help you win games. You got to mix in passes down the field. I think most people know that, but clearly the Cardinals. Remember when they announced Cliff Kingsbury when he was done giving out juice boxes one practice? He said, "We're going to unleash our offense. We want very vanilla." That's the statement of the Cardinals coach. "We want a vanilla offense during the exhibition season. Teams aren't going to know what's coming at them when the regular season begins. We are going to unleash the playbook." How's that going so far? How is that? Is that going well, or is that not going as planned there for the Arizona Cardinals? I mean, my goodness here. Steve Keim, the GM, this quote will haunt him, calling Kyler Murray a generational talent. Maybe in Pop Warner he's a generational talent and in college, but not in the NFL. That was an impulsive pick. They got excited because of the Heisman and all the hype and all that, and there is no sign of optimism. This guy is getting worse. 3 weeks in, he's getting worse. Kyler Murray. This is an uphill battle for the Cardinal franchise. They are screwed. So will they be able to draft Tua Tagovailoa? Will that tie come back to haunt them? And in the race with the Miami Dolphins to have an 0-16's off the table. So that tie could be the backbreaker, but the tiebreaker between the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft. All right, so let's go back to the Ravens for a second, okay? So if you look at the AFC North, the division they're in, they lose to Kansas City. It's a jumbled mess. Cincinnati, they have yet to win. A couple of competitive road games against Buffalo. They lost the lead late, and against Seattle, they got blown off the field by the 49ers. The Steelers are 0-3. That backup quarterback didn't look very good. They got some issues there. They lost a game. The other team had 4 turnovers early in the game. The Browns are 1-2. They got issues. And the Ravens are 2-1, but that's not a legit 2-1 because they played the Dolphins and they played the Cardinals to get those wins. And the first team they played is halfway decent. They lost the game, and they did get a backdoor cover. The entire division is rancid. It's rotting. The entire AFC North is a rotting division. It's going to be a tooth-and-nail type battle. Now, the jury is still out on Lamar Jackson. We'll see how he progresses going forward. It's anyone's guess if he's going to turn the corner. He clearly hasn't turned the corner yet. Those early games were what's known as an anomaly. And after watching the Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead against a very poor Kansas City defense, I assumed he would play a good game here and put up solid numbers and all that. But certainly looks like a mirage what he did in Miami and what he was able to do against Arizona, Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens defensively are not as good as they have been in the past. This is a defensive team that is not a shut-down, lockdown defensive unit. And you look around there, and Cleveland's got all kinds of issues there, but they got a bunch of easy games. They got those games. They got a game against the Dolphins later on. They got the game against the Cardinals, so they get those 2 cupcake games later in the season. And the Browns have some big studs on defense. Their problem is on offense right now.